Hello and welcome to Minerals, Rocks, and Fossil Talks. I'm your geo teacher, Jen, and it's time for Field Trip Friday. Yep, we went on a field trip. Okay, so this month is all about sulfate minerals. And to kick off field trip season, I know it would have started a month ago, but wedding. We are going to start at Knowles Recreation Area in western Utah, about 78-ish miles from Salt Lake City in Tuala County. It's quite literally in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. It felt like a much longer drive than it actually was, just because once you leave Tuala, there's not much out there, which is fine. It's still gorgeous. But if you're the kind of person who needs things to look at and you don't know geology, this could be a rough drive for you. But some fun things we did see on the drive out there was a Morton salt factory. I know. Shocker that we harvest salt from the Great Salt Lake, right? Okay. Some beautiful tilted Paleozoic beds, mostly Carboniferous limestones. A dike, which I couldn't get a picture of because there are no pullouts on the interstate, and it's dumb, and I hate that I can't just stop and take a picture. Need a proper highway, not an interstate. Or at the very least, a frontage road. I mean, would it kill them to put a frontage road in? Okay, anyway. There were some fun folds and potentially another dike. I was having a hard time being able to see through dirty windows and sand and smoke. One day I'll get out and climb some of these mountains out here. Basin and Range is a lot of fun. And then there was a sign for a tiny town called Aragonite. There didn't seem to be anything there except maybe an aragonite mine. Not entirely sure, but I was very amused by this sign. Now, the reason that we went out to Knowles was to collect some of the sand that's out there. Knowles is out in the Great Salt Lake Desert. Now, for a little background, this desert is the remnants of a massive Pleistocene lake known as Lake Bonneville. And if you've lived in Utah or grown up in Utah or even out in the West, you've probably heard of Lake Bonneville. Lake Bonneville was 325 miles long, stretching from Idaho clear down to St. George, basically. It was 135 miles wide and covered 20,000 square miles. That's nearly the size of Lake Michigan, to give you some context. Then a fault along the Wasatch Front, those are the mountains that I live next to, that are outside of Salt Lake, moved. And catastrophically drained the lake across Idaho, Oregon, and Washington straight into the Pacific Ocean. It was more than 1,000 feet deep and held 2,500 cubic miles of water. So the floods were significant, just stripped the land of every loose bit of sediment that it had on the way out to the ocean. Intense. Okay? Now, this leads to some major changes in the watersheds for the Salt Lake Valley. The fault moved again, plugged things up. There was no longer an outlet for the water being dumped into the lake to go. It just was there. So that meant that there was nowhere for the suspended sediment load to go except to stay suspended in the water, and that included salts. So all of these salts would have been dissolved in the water and just kind of hanging out and floating around as ions. Okay? With me so far? Cool. All right, now as the climate changed and the Pleistocene ice age came to a close, and Utah began to warm up and dry out, much of the water evaporated, leaving behind evaporite minerals like halite, the table salt that Morton is harvesting, calcite or aragonite, and gypsum. Okay? And here are some examples of each. So this is calcite from a different desert from Colorado. This is some gypsum from Colorado as well. And then some halite, pink halite specifically, some other things in it, from Utah. But not that part of Utah, different part of Utah. Now, on the eastern margins of the Great Salt Lake Desert, you will find beautiful white sand dunes. Most desert dunes will be made primarily of quartz because of its hardness, about 7 to 7.5, hard to break down. Most other minerals are too soft and break down too fast, so they don't stick around to become sand. However, things are a bit different in this desert. You see, Utah is freaking dry. It doesn't rain very much here, and in this particular area, it gets less than 5 to 8 inches annually. I'm going to repeat that. Annually. So less than 5 to 8 inches a year. This desert was once a shallow part of Lake Bonneville, so these sands are made mostly of gypsum. A calcium sulfate evaporite mineral, and oolites, which are rounded grains of calcite found that formed around brine shrimp pellets. That's brine shrimp poop. In case you need some specific answers there for what that means. With the significant lack of rain, these water-soluble minerals can accumulate into large white dunes. And you can see in this video just how fine-grained and soft this is. That's the wind just blowing it. It's wild. I love it, though. This stuff was so soft. So if you get a chance to get out there, it's well worth it. Well, now you know a little bit about the gypsum sand dunes. I'm also going to show you. So here's one picture I took up close of the grains. You can actually see that compared to my big piece here, you can see some of those little parallelograms in just the grains, right? Hopefully you can see some of them. There's one really obvious one like right here. But even at that small size, they still take on the same crystal structure, which is one of the important things to being a mineral, which is super fun. And then I have another one here specifically so you can see things like this one down here above my head. Those are the oolites that are mixed in. Nice little rounded pieces, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, I really need to make some like microscope slides. That'd be a lot of fun. And I'm hoping at some point to be able to get a digital microscope, but they cost money and I am poor. So hopefully in the future we'll actually get to look at things under a microscope together. It would be a lot of fun. And hello, Tough. Tough needs to say hello, except he hates being held. So, say hi, Tough. You gonna say hi? Or are you just gonna be grumpy? Because I picked you up, even though that's what you wanted. Tell ya. Monster. Anyway, thanks for coming to today's lesson. Hope you enjoyed this field trip, and tune in Monday to learn all about gypsum. Have a fantastic weekend, and to all my American friends, have a wonderful weekend enjoying your Independence Day. Please do so safely. Most of the country is having some drought problems, so please, please be safe. And honestly, especially in places like here in Utah where they've asked us not to put on fireworks, you don't need fireworks to have fun, guys. Trust me, there's so many other things you can do that are safer and not going to accidentally burn your home down. I love fireworks as much as the next American, but I would much rather have a home to come to back to when all things are said and done. But yeah, I hope you guys all have the best weekend, and I'll see you guys Monday. Fossilize you later.